We are starting our discussion today on page 57 of the VORTEX book. So, page 57, the heading at the top of the page is, Are Legal Contracts Counterproductive to Creativity? Now, Jerry's question to Abraham is, I understand that you're encouraging us to be aware of our current emotions in order to make our best choices. So, how can we live and create in the moment while at the same time entering into long-term relationships or agreements where our legal documents are often binding far into our future? My mother used to say that a contract is only as good as the people entering into it. Because there isn't a legal contract or any other sort of contract that you can't get out of if you really want to. So it's binding only if you think it's binding. Another one my mother used to say was that, I'm translating from Urdu, locks are for decent people. Because locks will only keep decent people out. Anyone who is not a decent person can break the lock. So locks only keep decent people out. So, she was full of these kinds of phrases and things that she used to repeat all the time. And it's interesting because, as we will see, Abraham says, again, that it's your thought that makes a difference. If you think you can't get out of something, then you can't get out of it. Because that is what you think. But if you tell yourself, there's everything that I want is possible, then that's the reality you will end up living. Sometimes, isn't it interesting? I know every one of us has experienced this. I have experienced it more than once. Maybe you will remember when I tell you. Isn't it interesting that some days you just don't feel like going to that party? Or you just wish that your client would call and cancel, and then they cancel? Right? You're shaking your head. We all know this. Right? And you're like, oh, I'm so glad I didn't have to cancel. They canceled. It's not on me. But the thing is, you had a contract. Anytime you make an agreement, it's a contract. It can be a verbal contract or a written contract. You had a contract with this person. You were going to do something. And then you just had this desire, oh, I wish they would cancel. And then they did. Oh my God, I can't even count how many times I've had that desire through my corporate life and celebrated when somebody calls and says, oh, I can't make it today. Because what is happening is that the universe is responding to my desire. So you can always get out of a contract. There are times when people do that with the sale of homes and purchases of property. Danielle on Facebook is saying yes. Hi, Rimpy, good to see you. And I don't know who else is there. But I know Rimpy and Danielle and Rochelle are there. Okay. So you see, there is no such thing as I won't be able to get out of this. There's no way I can get out of this. When you say there's no way I can get out of this, that thought is what prevents you from getting out. People do it to themselves all the time. Let me put it into perspective. I know women who would prefer to end their relationship but will not do it because of whatever other considerations that they have. So here's a woman who says, my kids are young. I don't like what's going on in my marriage, but I'll stick it out because I want to, because of my children. So she gives herself a reason to stay. But I know other women who say, no, it's not important enough. Kids will figure it out. I'm out of here. And they do. So you can use a reason to hold you back, or you can use the same reason to go. The point is, how do you feel about it? How you feel about it and how you think about it is what makes the difference. For the woman who is leaving, her self-talk has to make it okay for her to leave. Because if she leaves without thinking that it's okay for her to leave, then she's creating problems for her future. The woman who stays has to resolve in her mind by giving herself reasons that soothe her so that she does not continue to feel bad about the decision that she's making. Neither one is right or wrong. But what is wrong is to take action that feels bad. If it feels bad, but you've decided that this is what you're going to do, then do something to make peace with it. Don't take an action and keep beating the drum of dissatisfaction. Oh, I had to do it. I was forced into it. I had no other option. Don't do that, because when you do that, it feels worse. And then that's how negative momentum increases. A lot of times, whether it's men or women, when I'm counseling people about a relationship, the thing that they repeat is, oh, that's his or her habit and it's never going to change. Okay, if you think it's never going to change, then make peace with it. Because you can't keep saying it's never going to change and be happy. So find a way to be okay with it. Otherwise, do something. You can't stay and be unhappy, because you'll just make things so bad that they will no longer be under your control. In the beginning, we have control because there is no momentum. But if you keep thinking the same way over and over and over and over again, you create momentum. And momentum then takes over and you lose control. It's like a car going out of control. Once it's out of control, you can't get control back. Then you just have to crash and burn and get out, right? Start over. So Abraham's analogy is wonderful to remember under those situations where they give the analogy of the car at the top of a hill. In the beginning, if you push the car, if you nudge it forward, you can still go and stand in front of it and stop it from starting its descent down the hill. But if you push it hard enough and once it starts going down, now it has momentum, and if you try to get in the way, it's just going to flatten you along its way. It's not going to stop. So if we want something to change, the preferable way of doing it is not to let it get started. Don't let the car start its journey down the hill. Understand your angst, understand how you're feeling, and do something about it. Because something small that rankles can turn into something big. A common one that becomes really big is, my partner does not pick up after themselves. And every day you notice it in some way or another. Today they didn't clear their dishes from the table. Yesterday I picked up a sock. The other day I found a glass under the bed. And what's happening is, it's just now thinking that over and over again is creating momentum. So it's just going to get worse. So you have to find a way of saying, I let it go. It's not important. Why? Because there are 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 10,000 other things about my partner that I love and appreciate. So this one little thing, I'm just going to turn the other cheek. Let it be. I'm not going to pay attention to it. And in fact, when you don't pay attention to it, the problem goes away. Isn't that wonderful? Even though the problem has to do with someone else, and it might be part of their personality, but they will become conscious enough not to do it with you. People respond to your vibration. Animals respond to your vibration. The same dog will bark at one person and wag their tail at another person. Same dog, right? Same situation. People do it all the time. They're children. So interesting. One teacher at school, they can't wait to see that teacher again. Another teacher at school, same child, would like to run a mile. Right? Children do that all the time. Some people come for a visit and the child runs into their arms. Another person comes to visit and the child's hiding behind my legs. I have noticed this with my children. Some people, they don't want to go anywhere near. Why? Because they're picking up on the vibration. They are responding to the vibration. Everything responds to our vibration, and that's why it's so important just to go up the emotional scale. Because when you're high on the emotional scale, everything responds to you in positive ways. Nothing negative can ever happen if you are high on the emotional scale. Rochelle, you are very welcome. Yes, that's right, Danielle. It is different. The same with each parent. Yes, you'll see a difference. Children are very clever. They understand parents. Okay. Let's move forward. So, now we're talking about contracts. Here's what Abraham has said. First of all, Abraham has said there's nothing you can't get out of. Because they are giving the example here of marriage, where people get into an agreement that they say on page 58, Abraham says, marriage relationship agreements, many people enter into until death do us part marriage relationship agreements, later to amend those agreements with new agreements of divorce. So any relationship, any agreement can be changed. The thing about legal agreements, which is also on page 58, it's the first paragraph at the top of the page. Abraham says, many long-term agreements are sought from a standpoint of wanting to protect against future unwanted situations. And that is not a good basis from which to begin any relationship. Because if you are expecting things to go wrong, then the law of attraction is simply going to respond to your expectation that things could go wrong. And then you're going to turn around and say, wasn't it a brilliant idea to have this contract in place? Because you focused there, it happened. So yes, when you come to understand the power of your focused thought, any need to protect will dissipate and your sense of continual well-being will dominate. See, this is what happens when you start living life high on the emotional scale. You kind of sort of live in your little bubble. And in that little bubble, you don't need protection from the virus or anyone else. You don't think about safety because you feel your well-being. I often have to bite my tongue when someone uses the word safety. Because if you are using the word safety, your focus is on the absence of it. The other day, someone said with appreciation, and I arrived there safely. And I was like, why should that be a surprise? You should always arrive safely. It should not be something that you have to talk about unless your focus was in a different place. Right? So it's very interesting. Our language, the words, when you become conscious of how law of attraction works, you become so sensitive to what people are saying and what you are saying. And, the way people talk actually shines a light on us. It's when I notice other people using the word safety that I can teach myself not to use it. Right? So when we observe, Abraham says words don't teach, observation teaches. Life experience teaches. Well, when you observe something, you either make a decision in here that says, I want to do it that way, or you make a decision that says, oh, that's how you're doing it. I'm never doing it that way. Right? We did it to our parents all the time. Sometimes our parents did something and we said, oh, I love that. I want to be just like you. And other times our parents did something and we said, oh my God, I will never grow up to be like you. I remember having those thoughts and I'm honest about it. I don't know if you guys remember. But we've all been there. We have all been there. Okay. So you see, the point is, whatever you think in here is what you will get. You will get it. So why bring in safety? You only bring in safety when there's a danger. Why not talk about well-being? Abraham says talk about what you want instead of the absence of it. So why not talk about well-being instead of talking about safety? Safety means there's a risk. Well-being means well-being prevails. There's no risk to it. Right? So when people make agreements, they are making an agreement because their focus is actually on something going wrong. That's why they're making the agreement. Okay. That was very nice, Mercedes. Okay. So Abraham says all agreements can be changed, and they give another example, and the other example is of buying a house and entering into a 20 or 30-year mortgage. But it doesn't prevent you from selling the house. If you decide that you want to sell, you sell. Right? Okay. All right, so now the next question is really interesting because Jerry's asking Abraham about therapy. Jerry says, it seems to me that when people enter into therapy where they are trying to work out or fix specific problems, the problems often seem to continue for years. What's the cause of that? Why does their pain continue? And Abraham says, nothing ever remains the same, but things can change to more of the same. Focusing on problems of the past or the present will prevent you from moving to the solutions that are in your future. That's at the last sentence at the bottom of the page on page 58. Focusing on problems of the past or the present will prevent you from moving to solutions in your future. Focusing on the problems of the past or the present will guarantee a problematic future. So, therapy tends to go backwards to find problems, whereas you can use the same time to go forwards. Go forward instead of going backward. Because every time you go into the past, you activate the past. Whatever you activate shows up in your future. So, even when you're visiting a pleasant memory from the past, there's really no need to do that because you have the option of visualizing a happy future. Which one is a better one to pick? Going backwards to a pleasant memory or going forwards to a pleasant visualization. It's always preferable to go forward than it is to go backwards. There is never any need to go backwards. So Rimpi is saying, since the beginning of this session, I'm laughing so hard, remembering so much, taking responsibility that whatever is going on, it's all my creation. Yes, Rimpi, it is. So in past regression, they say, relive it and you will release it for good. So Rimpi, in order for that to work in that way, yes, it can work that way. You have to believe it. You see, it's all about our belief systems. If we buy into it, then yes, it will work. So if
Can you repeat what she said, please?
She said that if you go into the past, they say that reliving a thing helps us to let it go. Reliving it helps us to let it go. So let me explain why that can be true. If you relive it through a different perspective, you can let it go. And primarily you have to have the belief that the person, the expert who is guiding you, if you believe that if they say it's going to be gone, then it's going to be gone, then your belief in that person's ability helps you to let it go. So one of the things that I do in my practice through NLP, which is hypnosis. So what is hypnosis? Hypnosis is the planting of a belief. That's all it is. Hypnosis is the process of consciously planting a belief that helps you accomplish the thing that you want to accomplish. And I find hypnosis extremely helpful in dealing with past trauma. When people have PTSD or they've gone through abuse, or sometimes people will approach me and they've had these experiences that they don't want to tell anyone about, but those experiences are hurtful, then I will do an exercise with them to take them to the past, but I will help them to look at the past in a different way. When you look at something differently, the thing that you look at changes. Dr. Wayne Dyer's beautiful words. So if you look at the past through a different lens, then you experience the past in a different way. Let me tell you something. You've all done this. I guarantee it. Each and every one of you has done this. There's this person that we absolutely love and adore and care about. We've had many really good times with this person. We went on this picnic together. We went to, theater together. We have memories that are full of laughter and full of fun. And I love talking about the jokes that came out of our traveling together and doing things together. I love telling those jokes to people. It's so much fun. I have so much fun. And then what happens? Something happens and that person with whom I created all these memories passes away. Now I'm visiting the same playground, the same memory of the same picnic, and instead of making me happy, it's making me sad. What has changed? My perspective. Right? So you can visit the past and you can change the meaning that the past has for you, depending on how you look at it. When your perspective changes, the past changes. The reverse happens when I take people backwards to something that hurt them and change it into a comedy. now they can never revisit it without some element of comedy. So it doesn't hurt them anymore. When you change your perspective, what you look at changes. You can do that with your past, you can do that with your present, and you can do that with your future. That is what the paradigm of the 6 thinking choices is all about. The 6 thinking. So what I have realized and what I teach is that we, at any point in time, we have 6 thinking choices. We can go past positive, now positive, future positive, or we can go past negative, now negative, future negative. There are only 6 thinking choices. And we can make a conscious decision as to which one we want to adopt. Whichever one we adopt. So what happened when someone passes away? Suddenly, instead of going past positive, you decided, you made a decision to miss this person, and you decided to go past negative. Now you visit that same picnic where you had so much fun, and it makes you sad instead of making you happy. All right, let's just look at the comments on Facebook. Danielle is saying, when you look at a past event and see how it has given you a gift for your future. Yes, Danielle, that is how, when we start on this law of attraction journey, in fact, it is something that I have done. When I started this law of attraction journey with Abraham specifically, because the journey didn't start with my meeting Abraham, but with Abraham's help, I was able to accept my role in creating the past and release my responsibility for it as well. Because you have to forgive yourself. Otherwise, you can't move forward, right? And Rimpi is saying, so is this deliberate? Is this debatable when Abraham is saying focusing on the problem of the past or the present will guarantee future? Instead, if we remember that let's change the perspective, things will fulfill on a good note. So Rimpi, there seems to be a piece missing in your interpretation of Abraham, because Abraham never tells us to focus on problems. They always guide us to stop focusing on the problems, and in fact, Abraham's favorite words are get off the subject. Get off the subject. Selena is saying, reframing my past experiences has helped me so much. Same here, Selena. That's what it's all about. When you change your perspective, you are reframing the situation. Awesome. Hi, Danielle. Good to see you. All right. Anyone here have a question on Zoom? Sure, go ahead.
The part where you said, even looking back at the happy occasion, you said that was also not good. Like, I didn't... No,
I did not say that. I said you have a choice. You can go backwards and look at a happy occasion, or you can create a happy occasion in the future. Which one is a better feeling vibration?
Okay, but then when we choose, when we look at something that was happy from the past, isn't that how we get to see what is joyful?
But you see, looking at past happy experiences is more limiting than creating multiple possibilities of a happy future. The future is not restricted at all. There's no restriction on what future you can create. Whereas if you're looking at a past reality, you're looking at reality. You see? So it's limited. It's limited. The past, whenever you look at the past, it's limited. It's more limited than the future can be. But if you cannot think a happy thought about the future, then you should always look at a happy past.
The like you were talking about in some other context that, we don't know what joy is unless we bookmark or
That's
the
right.
word that we.
Yes.
So for that, we are.
For that, we do go back. Yes. To
So
bookmark.
that's how I was a bit confused. Like,
Yeah.
So the looking back at happy occasions are.
But once you
good or
bookmark,
not.
but once you bookmark it, then you don't need to go back to it over and over again, right? You always have a choice. Am I going to look backwards or forwards? Looking forward is always better than looking at the past. But for those people who don't have a glimmer of hope about the past, there's nothing that's working. Well, then don't try, because trying is more effort. There's less effort for them. There's less effort involved in going backwards to a happy memory. I have had happy things happen to me. If they could happen in the past, they can also happen in the future. So this is where there's no cookie cutter kind of a solution when it comes to law of attraction, because it's very individual. But assuming that you are high on the emotional scale, and I'll tell you something, if you are high on the emotional scale, you will naturally never look back. The higher you are on the emotional scale, the more you will be forward looking than backward looking. Because
my question is also about, like, say, if somebody else is recalling happy occasions from, before, like,
yeah,
family,
sure,
in a family
sure.
memory.
Mm-hmm.
So then, how do you respond, or what do you say to them, or?
No, join in.
Okay.
There's no harm. Okay, here's the thing, Lakshmi, that is really going to help you. I did not say that going into the past is a problem and you should not do it. I said you have a decision.
Okay.
You have a choice. You can go to the past or the future. The better choice is going to the future. I did not say don't go to the past. All I said is you have a choice. And going to the future is the better choice only if you have the ability to be positive about your future.
Okay. I get it. Thank you.
You get it? Yes. We're not saying don't go to the past. We're saying but there's a better option. But that better option only applies to those people who can look at the future from here. If you're not at the top of the emotional scale, do not try to look at your future, because you will invariably look at it from a place of lack. Because if you are anywhere below the worry line, you are looking at the future from a place of lack. And in that case, don't look at it at all. Get off the subject. Get off the subject. Good?
Yes.
Thank you, because that's very clarifying for everyone.
Zehra, do we have a picture of the scale? I want to take a copy and paste it on my mirror. Look at it every day.
Do we have a picture of the scale? So here's the thing, Rimpi, many people have developed Abraham has never, but many people have developed pictures of the emotional scale based on the 22 emotions that Abraham teaches. I find that very complicated and I don't do it. I like to keep things really simple. Either you feel good or you don't. Simple. You don't need a picture for that. It's a very simple question. Do I feel good? And if you can't say yes, then you're automatically saying no.
There is a list of emotions in Ask and It Is Given.
Yes, it is
Like 18,
in many.
it has like 18 different emotions.
No,
right?
there are 22. There are 22 different emotions. So, Rimpi, there are lots of people who have created diagrams of Abraham's emotional scale. If you like using Abraham's emotional scale, just Google it and go to images and pick one that you enjoy looking at. There are Tons, literally.
Let me make it not any more complicated than this. It's good or either not good.
Exactly. It's more simple. I used to get caught up in deciding whether I was feeling depressed or guilty. Like, what am I? So I would spend too much time trying to figure out which emotion I'm on. And then I said, well, all this time that I'm spending figuring out which emotion I'm on, this is negative. Because it's not because I have a choice just not to try and figure it out, but just use that same time and that same energy to find something that feels good. Omelets, trees, babies, right? So why spend so much time trying to figure out which emotion you're on when it's a really simple thing? If you're not feeling good, if you cannot answer the question, how do I feel, by saying I feel good, then the only other option is I don't feel good. Okay? Keep it simple. So I say this all the time on my YouTube channel. It is my mission to make people understand that if you keep it simple, it will be easy to apply. The more complicated you make it, the harder it will be to apply. Keep it simple. Simple is easy to remember. Simple is easy to apply. Simple does not send you into a puzzle. Oh, should I do this? Should I do that? It's really simple. Am I feeling good? No. What do? Appreciate. I can't appreciate this thing that's before me. Oh, look at a tree. Stop looking at this thing that you can't appreciate. That is keeping it simple. That's all of law of attraction. That's it. Complete. Simple. Yes, Mercedes.
This may be a bit basic, but could you clarify on what Lakshmi said about bookmarking joy?
Well,
I might have a problem in there with the word, though.
Okay, so it's not a problem at all. When I first started listening to Abraham, which now seems like a lifetime ago, and Abraham said, you need to know whether you're feeling good or not. And I came across these 22 emotions. But because I had suppressed my emotions for a very long time, I couldn't tell the difference between one emotion and another emotion. There was no difference for me. It was flat. My emotions had flatlined. There were no blips. If something nice happened, I didn't get excited and happy. If something bad happened, I didn't get sad. I was constantly in this place where I was in an emotional limbo because I had trained myself not to feel emotion because my life was not fun. So I had trained myself out of feeling emotion because feeling emotion was very painful. So when I met Abraham, I realized that if I'm going to do this work, I need to start feeling again. Otherwise, I will not be able to tell where I am on the emotional scale. I won't be able to do the work that Abraham wants me to do. So I devised a strategy of benchmarking emotions. Meaning, Zehra, how will you know that you're feeling good unless you know what feeling good feels like? So I sat down and I went past positive all the way back. I had to go really all the way back to when I was 5 and 6 years old and remember things that felt pure, like pure joy. To me, those things were blowing bubbles, playing with a balloon, jumping up and down on a mattress. Those were my pure joy things. So I remembered those things and I said, oh, now I know what pure joy feels like. So the way I feel when I talk to someone, talk to a friend, it doesn't feel like I was blowing bubbles. It doesn't feel like I was jumping up and down on a mattress. I guess I was not in a place of joy. So and then what I did was I incorporate that. So when people come to me and they say, Zehra, I was feeling so good, and then something bad happened. How can that be? It's law of attraction is broken. It's not working for me. So I asked them, do you feel like you were blowing bubbles? Or playing with a balloon? Or jumping up and down on a mattress? Because if you weren't feeling that way, then you weren't really in a place of joy. And that's what I call benchmarking of emotions. And it's different for everyone. It's different for everyone. So I just take people through asking them questions to find what is their pure joy. You have to know what is joy to you. You have to know what is sadness to you. For me, I had to work on it to figure it out because I didn't feel any emotions at all. So that's why how can you know that you are happy? So people will say, oh, I'm I remember telling you guys this, that I was coaching some really young women. All of them under the age of 35. And these women, these girls were telling me, their parents were telling me that they weren't doing really well. They had all sorts of health problems and other issues in their lives. And when I spoke to these girls, I said, so how do you feel on a daily basis? When you wake up, how do you feel? And they said, oh, I'm happy. I feel really good. Okay, then that means you don't know what happy is because your life is a mess. If you tell me that you feel happy and your life is amazing, I believe you. But when you tell me that your life is a mess, but you say you're happy, you don't really know what happy is. Or you used to know and you've forgotten it. So benchmarking emotion is the process of awakening a person to start understanding what feels good and what feels bad. Make sense, Mercedes? Yeah. So I know you are reading the book Thrive, and benchmarking of emotions is very much part of this book. Okay? Awesome. All right. Yes, Selena, I'm glad you like simple. Pure Joy is looking at that adorable unicorn above your head right now. Yes, I love that adorable unicorn as well. And what makes it really, really a lot of fun is that it was a gift. And Selena, no surprise that my pure joy is dancing. Yes, for a lot of people, music and dancing are pure joy. Especially those oldies that you used to like when you were a kid and you hear them again and it just immediately takes you high on the emotional scale. Awesome. Okay, guys, let's get back to the book. All right, where were we? Oh, yes, we were talking about therapy. So Abraham says, therapy can be of value in the sense that any discussion about the unwanted aspects of your life experience can help you to know more clearly what changes you prefer. So it helps us send out more rockets of desire with more clarity about what we want. There is a tremendous difference in the vibrational frequency of the problem and that of the solution. And this is the important thing. If your therapy is helping you to look at your past differently, then it is helping you to look at your future differently. But if your therapy is just digging, coming up with all the problems without helping you to look at those problems in a different light, then it's not working. Because then it's actually making things worse. Because if you focus on the problem and you don't switch out of the problem focus and into solution focus, then you're not making progress. You're creating more of the same in your future. Awesome. The question is one of the question is one vibration, while the answer is something quite different. And often I will say this to people, and I'll say it to you guys, here's the difference. We've all written some sort of an exam during our school years or during our life. We've all written some sort of an exam. Imagine writing an exam. So you go and you read the question, and then you keep reading the question over and over again. Where's the answer? You're just reading the question over and over again. You have to stop reading the question and then ask yourself, what's the answer? You can't keep reading the question and have the answer come. This analogy is what I used in order for me to know the difference between the vibration of the question and the vibration of the answer. Even if you're doing a multiple choice exam, you have to stop reading the question. Right? And then you look at the answers and you pick one. So you cannot keep reading the question. As long as you are reading the question, the answer cannot come. That is the simplest way to look at this. So what am I doing? Am I focused on the problem? Problem is the question. If I am focused on the problem, the answer will not come, because the answer is on a different radio frequency. It's not on the same frequency. Okay? All right, let's keep moving. What is our greatest value to those in need is the next question. On page 59, Jerry is asking, if we see a friend in a negative situation, living something truly unwanted, or without something the person very much does want, how can we help? In other words, how can we be of an advantage to others rather than a disadvantage? And Abraham says, because of your awareness of the situation your friend is in, neither of you is aligned with your broader perspective. Your awareness of your friend's problem is a true disadvantage to him because you are amplifying the vibration of the problem and therefore adding to it. Oh my God. When I understood this, I stopped listening to the news. When I understood this, I understood that if I focus on the problems that are going on in different places in the world, I'm not helping. I'm in fact adding to the problem. That was when I said, that's it. I am not going to listen to the news. The only piece of news I listen to is the weather forecast. That I still listen to. But because we want to be part of the solution. We want to help other people because helping other people feels satisfying. We want good things to happen for everyone in the world, which means we're not going to listen to the news about everything that's going wrong in the world. And you know, it was not easy for me to do because I was the one with the bleeding heart. I don't know, maybe you are someone with a bleeding heart, but my heart was always bleeding for some cause or another cause or a person or an animal or a country. My heart was always bleeding. I still remember, this is how powerful the news is. When I was very young, there was a drought going on in Africa. I don't remember which countries were affected, but there was a drought going on in Africa. And the news media was full of pictures of little children with their ribs sticking out and you could only see their bones. My heart used to bleed, literally. I wanted so much to help them. And then I met Abraham. And Abraham said, if your heart bleeds for them, you're adding to the problem. And I was like, oh my God, all these years? That's what I've been doing? Never again. Never again. And it feels difficult because we want to help, we want to do good. What book are we looking at? I came in late. This book? This is one of my books, Selena. Thrive. So Thrive is a book with 42 diagrams. Let me show you a diagram like this one that explain how law of attraction works, along with little stories. So just to make it clear, this is one of my books, but I didn't write it. I flowed it. I channeled it. Because that's how I write my books. Okay. There's another comment there. Hang on, guys. Yes, Selena is saying, huge bleeding heart, no more. Absolutely. Danielle is saying, especially when it's at the silent disco, we can all listen and dance how we like. Yes, I love the idea of the silent disco. It's so much fun. Awesome. Okay. Moving along. So, our greatest value is in not perpetuating the problem for the very people that we want to help. And also understanding what Abraham is saying here is that when you look at a friend with a problem, or you look at humanity at, one place in the world, and they're all subject to this reality that we wish would change. Now what we have done is a couple of things have happened. One, we have given rise to a rocket of desire. But now if we keep looking at the problem, then we are perpetuating the problem. If we get off the problem, then we are no longer perpetuating it. But staying in the vibration of the problem is actually taking us down the emotional scale. And our being down on the emotional scale is going to affect our life. So those people who have bleeding hearts, their own life gets affected. Their own money, their own relationships, their own health gets affected because of the fact that they have gone down the emotional scale. One of the biggest things to understand about law of attraction is that the subject that created the vibration in you does not matter. Only the vibration matters. I don't have to feel good about my empty bank account in order for money to come. I can feel good about a yummy omelette and the money will come. Why? Because yummy omelette takes me up the emotional scale, and the more time I spend high on the emotional scale, then my money, my health, my relationships will all respond to that vibration. So the subject is not important. This is one of the biggest blockages that people have in their heads when it comes to law of attraction is that they think that they have to change their vibration about the subject that is not working. No, you don't. No, you don't. That's too much work. Because the subject that is not working is like the car that has already started its descent down the hill. It has momentum. So you can't pull it back in, up the hill. You can't pull it back up the hill. It's the analogy that Abraham uses of jumping out of the aircraft without a parachute. You can't get sucked back into the aircraft once you have jumped out. But a lot of people try to get sucked back up. That's like saying, I don't have any money in my bank account, but I'm going to start to feel good about not having any money. You can't do that. It's not possible. So just leave that alone and find something else to feel good about. Because the universe will respond. Stella, sit. Good girl. The universe will respond to your positive vibration with respect to any subject, not that subject. It doesn't have to be that subject. So that's why when Abraham says, get off the problem, get off the subject, distract yourself. That is why they say that. Because if you don't distract yourself, you're actually doing the opposite of what you want to do. What you want to do is to solve the problem. But your focusing on the problem is not going to help solve it. Appreciation is the main deal, Selena. Yes, you are right. And that's why I just always say this. Keep it simple. Keep it simple. If you're not high on the emotional scale, there are only two things you can do. Either stop thinking, which is meditation, or start thinking positively, which is appreciation. That's it. Right? Easy. Keep it simple. You don't need to go running around. Sometimes I have people come and say, when I'm coaching, people will say, you've taught me this and you've taught me this and you've taught me this. Can you teach me more things? I'm like, there isn't more things. That's it. That's it. You have it all. Now just go and do it. You don't need more exercises. It's just going to be so complicated. A lot of people love the book Ask and It Is Given. Certainly I love it and it has its place in my journey. But imagine that here I am with a problem. I have a problem and I want to solve this problem. Imagine sitting there with the book Ask and It Is Given and going through 22 different exercises trying to figure out which one to use. Don't need to do that. Either stop thinking, which is meditation, or start thinking positively, which is appreciation. That's it. Done. I can do those two. It's not complicated. It's simple. And guess what? All the exercises in the book are either about stop thinking or start thinking. Right? So I don't need to figure out which exercise to do. I know there are only two answers. I just need to pick one and do it. Keep it simple. All right. Let's go back to the book. Oh, we are at time, but I think also that we have completed this section. And the next session is, are some doomed by their childhood influence? Ooh, big parenting question. Are we doomed because of what we experienced as a child? The short answer is no, but the long answer we'll discuss later. I think...
Isn't there one more before that? Why do some people repeatedly attract painful relief?
Oh yes, you're right, Lakshmi. That's where we'll start next time. Actually, that one we can take care of. It's a short one and we can do that right now. So the thing is, unless when you leave a relationship or you leave a painful situation, if you don't do any vibrational work in the interim, then you will recreate the same thing over and over again. And that's what Abraham is saying here. Abraham says, it is possible to walk away from an unwanted situation without repeating it again. But that would require not talking about it, not thinking about it, and not pushing against it. It would require a complete deactivation of the vibration of the troubling experience. And that's where we say, get off the subject. If you get off the subject, it will fix itself. And the only way to deactivate a thought or vibration is to activate another. Activate a different thought. That always works. And that's why I say, I want to fix my money problem. I'm going to go think about an omelette. Get off the subject. Okay? Talk about what you do want and discontinue dialogue about any unwanted experiences, situations, or results. The goal is to feel good. That's what they're saying in the bottom paragraph there on page 61. Reinforce your desire to feel good. It is easier to release a negative thought in the beginning stages of it rather than after it has gained more momentum. And I think that last line there is something that I spent a lot of time talking about today. So I think that we are done. So next time we will begin at page 62. Are some doomed by their childhood influence? Awesome. All right. Any questions before we close the call? Hi, Rochelle. You're welcome. Yeah, go ahead.
Can I ask one question, Zehra?
Absolutely.
So about the painful relationships, sometimes we see that there's, how do I put it? Like there in some people's life, there are relationships one after the other in a loop, where they are manifesting relationships which are not working one after the other. Maybe in the earlier stages, as you've put it, that don't let it gain momentum. So maybe in the earlier stages, they didn't know this is what it is leading to. And in the end, they actually end up in a very, very painful relationship where they're like, nothing is working in my life. So how do I pull myself? What do I do now? And eventually, sometimes all these things, if a coach notices that it has started sometime in their childhood life, maybe they had some childhood trauma or something. It had gained momentum around that time, but the child didn't know that this is what is happening up until now. So how do you stop at this point of time?
Well, the main ingredient there, Rimpi, is that the person who is in that kind of a situation keeps telling themselves that nothing can be done. It's too late now. It's very difficult. I can't do this. And when you're repeating thoughts like that, then the answers can't come because you're focused on the problem. That's the entirety of the discussion we had today. As long as you're just continuously thinking, oh my God, I have this problem, I have this problem, I have this problem, then the solution can't come. The important thing, when you start understanding law of attraction, you start understanding the fact that all things are possible. It does not matter how bad a situation has become. It can get sorted out. People have demonstrated this to us in so many different ways with respect to health. People with stage 4 cancer have woken up the next day without any cancer in their body. People with serious health problems have shown us that those health problems can go away in next to no time at all. People in relationships have also demonstrated similar things, that, if a relationship is not working, you can start making it work, but it involves giving yourself a completely new belief system. From saying, I have this cancer and it's going to take me, to saying, I am going to figure this out because I can. Nothing is impossible. All things are possible. Things are always working out for me. then you can. So I remember Abraham once answering a woman, and she had a health situation. She was talking to Abraham, and Abraham said to her, the difference between recovery and not is hope. That's the difference. And what is hope? Hope is a positive vibration. It's pretty high on the emotional scale. Actually, if you look at hope, hope is in the cap. It's in the cap region of the emotional scale. Hope is a very high vibration. So it's the high vibration that makes the difference between recovery and not. If you look at your situation, whether it has to do with health or a relationship, and you bring yourself down the emotional scale and you say, this will never get fixed, I'm doomed, this is a disaster, then that's how it will be, because you're focused on the problem and you're not looking at the problem from a point of view of hope. And I was giving you the example of a child writing an exam. Well, it works the same way. If you read the question and then you say, I can't do this, this will never happen, I can't answer this question, well, then you won't. You'll just stare at the paper and hand it in blank, right? But if you read the question and you say, okay, I'll do my best, I'll do as much as I can, I know some parts of this, well, at least now you'll do something. There's hope. And that person has hope. I may not know the entire answer, but I'll do whatever I can. At least I'll get some grade. Out of these 5 points for this question, maybe I can get at least 2. That's hope. No hope is, I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't do this. I'm just going to stare at it. And that's what happens to people in relationships as well. They give up hope. They keep telling themselves that there's no way for this to work. Well then, there is no way for it to work, because that's what you're saying. That's what you're putting out there. Right? Does that answer your question?
Thank you. Yes.
Awesome. Selena says that she did that with the so-called chronic fatigue syndrome. I have tons of energy now. Awesome. Good job, you. Fantastic. All right, guys, I am going to close the call and I will post it to YouTube tomorrow. Bye for now.
Thank
Bye.
you. Thank you.
Thank
so much.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
Everybody.
Thanks, bye.
Bye.
And see you all next week. All right. So we will continue our discussion Thursday next week. Take care in the meantime. Bye for now.